So with that, let's move into our very first speaker for the day, which is the Honourable Carla Qualtrough. She's the recently retired Canadian member of Parliament and Cabinet Minister who held several senior portfolios in government during her 10 years in Parliament, including being Canada's first ever minister responsible for persons with disabilities. She's a successful lawyer, dedicated volunteer and Paralympic swimmer, and a lifelong advocate for disability rights and inclusion.
Well, hi, everyone, and thank you for having me. Oh, my goodness, it's so good to be here. I'm joining you today virtually from Delta, British Columbia, Canada, which is the traditional territory of the Tsawwassen and Musqueam First Nations. After thinking about the various perspectives that I bring to this discussion and wanting really to pay tribute to the work that's being done at GLE, which I will refer to probably more often than not as IIDL. I'm trying to get the GLE language, so I apologize, everyone. I really wanted to speak to you about my experience as a cabinet minister, the first cabinet minister to ever have responsibility for disability in Canada. As you can imagine, as a person with a disability and having previously been a human rights lawyer, I took this responsibility really seriously. And one thing I knew going into this, so this was 2015. The thing I knew was that there really wasn't an established mechanism, system, or process through which disability leaders or stakeholders or organizations could provide input into Canadian government policies, laws, programs, etc. So there wasn't a way for people to be consulted, really, like a formal way. Disability wasn't really considered as a matter of course when decisions were being made by the government of Canada. And really any good work that was being done, which there really was being done because of the people who were in place, not because there was a systemic recognition of the importance of disability inclusion. So that was kind of what we walked into. And I say we because I always thought of it as we, we as having this opportunity, but also the entire disability community in Canada was given this opportunity as well. There was a void in policy and law, right? Nothing really to ensure that disability was taken into consideration and that people with disabilities would be consulted and have meaningful input into the decisions that were affecting our daily lives, which, by the way, is every decision a government makes. It was really one of the things I must have said thousands of times over the past 10 years, that there really isn't a decision made by a government that doesn't impact or affect the lives of people with disabilities. So we have to be a part of every decision. I also wanted to raise the profile of the good work that was being done by disability organizations in Canada. And I really wanted to reframe the conversation in Canada from one that was more of a reactive approach of accommodation to a proactive approach of disability inclusion. We do have, luckily, and thanks to the hard work of over decades, we have a robust human rights system in Canada. So there is a very, there's a lot going on in the human rights space, but, as somebody who practiced in that space, it's very reactive in the sense that you kind of have to wait till somebody is discriminated against before you can help them. So it feels very stifling sometimes to have to wait till that discrimination occurs. So really wanted to back that up and create a more proactive approach. So here's what I wanted to do. I wanted to write law, create policy, change or create government policy, increase profile, to demonstrate Canadian leadership. And I wanted to do it early, and I'm very patient as we're going to because I didn't know how I was going to be in the position, and I wanted to make meaningful change. And what I needed to do this was a network. I needed immediate access to experts, people with lived experience, both in Canada and around the world. And what that meant was I needed IIDL or GLE, because this gave us the ability to connect with people from around the world. It provided a way to connect and collaborate globally. As a single point of reference where we could identify and exchange information, Canada could see what was being done in other countries, including what other governments were doing in terms of their strategies and approaches. We could quickly access best practices and disability leaders from around the world. And of course, we could share the good things that we were doing in the world and build upon them. Because IIDL, GLE, was in the business of helping transform systems, and I had a system that I really wanted to transform. So at the ministerial level, at the officials level, and at an individual level, IIDL GLE was incredibly impactful. You know, I had a not so secret weapon, who many of you may know, James Van Royalty, who was with our Government of Canada Office of Disability Issues at the time. And he was actually the vice chair of the sponsoring countries leadership group. What this allowed us to do was really, you know, dig deep and learn quickly and hopefully kind of bring that into our space at a speed that hadn't been done before, because again, I was always mindful of the limited time I may or may not have had in this role. So I actually went to Sydney and was honored to deliver a keynote at the 2017 IIDL Leadership Exchange and participate in the combined network meeting. And this was a fantastic opportunity to meet and learn from other leaders from around the world, people who were thinking big, people who were doing big things and facing big challenges. And as we carried out our work in Canada to develop a policy framework for disability inclusion through a collaboration with the disability community, we learned from the work that was being done around the world, work that we knew of because of IIDL GLE. So we had access to experts, people who were willing to share, people who were willing to challenge us, and people who were then willing to share some more. So we participated in many of these events, hosted meetings, and gained a lot from our involvement as a country. And for me, as minister, it was really beneficial to have the structure of IIDL in place, because there was this pre-existing forum where people collaborated, where bridges were being built around the world between governments and civil society. And more personally, it was a place where I could personally get support and lean on other leaders from around the world who had disabilities. And it was an important reminder to me that while I was the only person like me at the cabinet table in Canada, I was not alone in this. There was a lot of other people like me doing the same kinds of things around the world. It made it a little less lonely, because sometimes it felt very alone at that table. Here at home, of course, I was asking the disability community to take a major leap of faith and trust that I would deliver what they said was needed, when, quite frankly, history would suggest that they had absolutely no reason to trust that the government would do this. But together, through collaboration and leadership between 2015 and 2025, we changed the legal and policy landscape for disability inclusion in Canada. From the 2019 Accessible Canada Act to the 2022 Canada Disability Inclusion Action Plan and the 2023 Canada Disability Benefit, we made big things happen together. Super proud. We ratified the Marrakesh Treaty. We acceded to the UNCRPD Optional Protocol, and so much more. We're just so proud of our history and of our future with GLE. And I'm very proud to have been exposed and introduced to this world. You guys are doing really big things, and there's a lot more work to be done, and we're going to do it together. Thank you.